Hello everyone. This evening we're going to be making a mince base sauce, but we're going to do a large batch of it. So to do that we need a few different vegetables as a base. We've got some mince pre-defrosted and we're going to be making it tonight in a pressure cooker. So what we'll do is we'll start with the vegetables. So I'll just make a start with the onions and then we'll go into fast forward so you don't have to sit there and watch me chopping. Now the thing I find with onions, when I trained as a chef many years ago, I was taught how to cut onions very finely into very small cubes. But what I've found as I've got older is I prefer bigger chunks, and it actually saves a lot of time just to cut them a bit more coarsely. And for me personally, it enhances the flavour of whatever it is you're cooking. So I just like to cut out the core and then cut it into 3 and then just chop it across like that. So you've got some nice big chunks of onion there to go into the dish. And so now, if you just want to watch, I'll do the rest of the chopping and then we'll fast forward and then we'll get straight to the cooking. So there you have it, we've got leeks, carrots and onions all ready to go into the pot. So now we're just going to do the garlic and then finally the peppers. So with this dish I'm going to be making approximately between 10 and 15 portions depending on how much you eat. So I'm going to put a fair old bit of garlic in there. Might seem like too much, but once the dish has been made there'll be plenty there. So a great tip with garlic, just get the loose skin off. Take the top off, in fact the skin's come off that one. Take the top off, put your knife sideways on, probably better with a cutting knife, give it a whack and then the skin should just literally fall off. Okay. I do absolutely love garlic actually, so I do like to put plenty in. And what we're going to do with this garlic is we're going to crush it. We're going to crush it using a knife. No special implements needed. So we'll just get rid of the skin. Now this does take a bit of practice. So what we're going to do is just going to slice it very thinly, as thinly as we can. And then we're going to take those slices, cut them again. So effectively what we're doing is we're chopping it into very small pieces. And we'll turn it sideways on using a knife. And then I'm going to go back to my chef's knife again now. I do like to use that big carving knife. I've used that for many years. and I've just got so used to using it that I did tend to use it for many jobs for which it's not originally designed. So, nearly there. We don't need to get it too fine. Reasonably fine is good. Just keep chopping over it until you've got rid of the biggest of the chunks. Okay, that should do. So then what we do, just get rid of that bit of skin there. So then what we do is we get some salt. Because what the salt does is it holds the oil together that comes out of the garlic when you start to crush it. So I just use this Cerebos iodized salt. Plenty on, and what we'll do is we'll put less seasoning in the sauce when we make it, because the salt in the garlic will make up for it. So get a little flat strip like that. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to take the knife, press it down and scrape it like that. As I say, this does take a bit of practice, but once you get the hang of it, it's worthwhile doing, so there's no waste as you get with those garlic crushers, and you get the maximum flavour out of the garlic. And then we'll give it another once over, so just bring it together, so you can see that's already starting to become a bit like a paste. It out into a little strip like that, and then we'll go over it again, a bit faster this time. And there you have it, crushed garlic. So we'll add that to the leeks, the peppers, sorry, the leeks, the onions and the carrots. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just take the seeds out of these peppers. Now these have all been washed. What I like to do is just take the top off, cut down the sides, removing all the white stuff, and then you're just left with a top and a bit of seed, which can go in the bin or in the recycle bin, and then usually the top just falls out. So remove the top, stalk falls out, and then slice down the side of the pepper, which is much quicker than faffing around trying to take the seed out of a whole pepper. So that's all the veggies prepared. What we've got is about 1.5 kilos of lean beef mince. So what we're going to do is we're going to fry this off, just to brown it off a little bit, over by the hob, and then we'll start to put everything together and start to build up the sauce. Now this sauce, you can use it as a standalone sauce to have with pasta or rice, or you could use it to make stuffed peppers perhaps. You could create a chilli-con-carne or a bolognaise sauce out of it. Now I'm going to make this particular base batch with kidney beans. I've pre-cooked some kidney beans off today. They were pre-soaked last night and they've been boiling for a couple of hours, so they're nice and soft, ready to go in. Now you don't have to put kidney beans in. If you wanted to make chilli-con-carne up later, what you could do is use canned kidney beans. So you could make your base sauce and then add your ingredients later, and we'll talk you through that in another video later on. So we're going to go over to the hob and start frying the meat off. So I've got all the ingredients now ready to go. So we've got our carrots, onions, leek and garlic, our chopped peppers, the meat that we're going to fry off in a moment. 4 tins of chopped tomatoes. I have a couple of pieces of beef stock just to enhance the flavour. I'm going to put some oregano and basil in. And I'm just going to enhance the flavour with a little bit of cumin, which I think brings out the flavour quite nicely, and a little bit of Lee & Perrins Worcester sauce. And to finish it off, a little bit of tomato puree just to thicken the sauce up. As you'll see, when we pressure cook meats, what we have to do is make sure the sauce isn't too thick, and we're not going to add the beans in to the pressure cooking process. They're already cooked, so we'll add those in at the end, because what tends to happen when you pressure cook foods is things like beans tend to stick to the bottom, and they really mess up the pressure cooker. So we're going to use the pressure cooker to start frying the meat off, and then we're going to do it in small batches, because otherwise all the water will come out of the meat and it won't fry, it'll just start to boil. So we'll do a batch at a time. We'll fry it off in the pressure cooker, in the pan, and then we'll just transfer it into this pan temporarily, and then we'll do the vegetables and we'll add the meat back before we start to put the stock in. Alright, so the hob's on. I'm just going to let that warm up. I'm going to add a little bit of butter, not too much, because there's already going to be some fat in the meat. We want to keep it fairly lean. So with 1500 grams or 1.5 kilos of meat, I'll probably fry this off in about 4 batches, I think. Which is going to equate to approximately 2 handfuls. So I'll drop it in. You can hear it frying there nicely. Just enough so that we can just cover the bottom of the pan. And I'm going to break it all up and allow it to all go nice and brown. So as you can see, that's the meat browned off. So what we're going to do now is just add a little bit more butter. I prefer to use butter rather than any other fat, because personally I think it's more healthy. There's a lot of debate out there about butter and cholesterol, but I prefer to use the natural stuff rather than use anything that's like margarine or other oils or fats. So we've just left all the meat juices in there, because the pan's going to be used for the same thing. As you've probably noticed, it's an enormous pan. Now this is a 20 litre pressure cooker pan. Now you don't probably need a 20 litre pressure cooker pan, depends how much you're going to do. What you'll notice is, once I've finished and all the ingredients are in there, it's still only about half full. But I like this pan, it works for me. And you also don't need to pressure cook it. You could probably just cook it slowly on top for maybe 40 minutes or so, and that would be enough to soften up the mincemeat there. I like to use a pressure cooker because it really does soften the mince up in about 15 minutes or so. So in go the onions, the leeks, the carrots and the garlic. And we're just going to sweat those off now for a couple of minutes. So while that's sweating off, I'll just add in a little bit of basil, a little bit of oregano. If you've watched my previous videos, you'll probably know that it's one of my favourite ingredients. And a bit of cumin. Not too much, just a sprinkling. I'm just going to let that all sweat together. Just until those onions start to go a bit translucent, and then we'll add the meat back into the pan. Okay, in goes the meat. Mix all that together. It's already starting to smell quite delicious. Splash of Lea and Perrins in there. And then straight away we're going to add the chopped tomatoes straight in. So that's quite a thick sauce at the moment, so one thing I do like to do is when I've cooked the kidney beans, I like to use the water from the kidney beans as a sort of a stock. That water has got quite a lot of the nutrients that have cooked out of the kidney beans, so it's always a good thing to use it if you can, and if you like the flavour of the kidney beans. For me personally, I think it brings a really nice flavour to the sauce. And it also makes it a little bit darker. So these are the kidney beans that I cooked earlier, all ready to go in. So I'm just going to add a little bit of this liquor, just to thin out that sauce a bit. Probably about 3 or 4 cupfuls. I'm just going to add 1 cube of organic beef stock. Throw that straight in. That'll all break up as it starts to boil. And then I'll add a bit more salt. As you remember, we put some salt into the garlic and some pepper when that's finished cooking. So that's that bit done. We're going to put the lid onto the pressure cooker. Before I do, just to make sure that's well sealed, I'm just going to wipe the edges there. There we go. Lid goes on, twist. So I'm now going to leave that until the pressure cooker indicator comes up to full, which is up to the second red mark there. When it's on full, I'll give it 15 minutes and then just let it cool down. The pressure cooker's now finished its cycle, so what we're going to do, that's just been left to stand so that the pressure has now reduced. So we did boil it at full pressure, which is up to the second red mark there, for 15 minutes. So we're just going to take the lid off now and see how things look very carefully, because the heat does tend to rush out a little bit. I could probably do with a cloth actually for this, but let's risk it. Okay, so that's looking good. What you may have noticed is that we didn't put the peppers in. That's because peppers, when you pressure cook them, just turn to mush. So we're going to add them in now, and because that's really hot, they will cook in the residual heat. They don't need much cooking. So I shall just stir those in. The other thing you might notice is that the sauce is a little bit thin. That's fine as well, because what we're going to do, we're going to add the kidney beans in next, and because the kidney beans have been so well cooked, nice and mushy, just as I like them, I'm going to mash some of them through the sauce, and that in itself will thicken it. So in go the kidney beans. We'll just stir those in. We're going to now add the tomato puree. Probably about half a tube should be enough, so I'm going to put the rest of that in. Of course, if you wanted less portions, you would be using less in terms of your ingredients. So let's just stir that through. And I'm going to get the potato masher now. I'm just going to mash some of those beans through it as well. And that should give us a nice thick consistency. So that's about the consistency we're looking for. Final taste. That's delicious. Now the meat, because it's been pressure cooked, is really tender and just melts in your mouth. That's what I love about pressure cookers, is it doesn't take long, you don't use much energy or power. 15 minutes on high, on full pressure, and that meat is absolutely tender. The same effect that you would get in a slow cooker if you cooked it for 3 or 4 hours. This is some organic pasta, or organic spaghetti that I prepared earlier. So this is perfectly good to serve on its own. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a couple of ladles to that, because I'm pretty hungry today, as usual. And then I'm going to combine that together, and that's my dinner for tonight. With the rest of it, we're going to box it up, and then in the following videos we're going to show you what we can do with this sauce. You can either have it on its own, certainly nice enough to do that, or you can make a number of other creations out of it.